Market uncertainty is setting in, and of course, the market is in a very interesting position. We'll break it down for you. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. ETH may be on the forefront here, so you don't want to miss this one. I do want to thank our sponsor, and that is Coinbase. It is a great place for you guys to get started in your crypto journey. If you haven't done a trade over on Coinbase, just jump over there. It's very easy to set up, and you guys can begin your journey. Buy your first Bitcoin, buy your first Ethereum. All you have to do is use our link. You're going to get up to $200 in crypto just to get started once you make your trade. So use our link down below. Let's get going. I want to go into a couple of key things that are happening this week. One, of course, I want you to watch for is Nvidia earnings. Nvidia is getting ready to report on Wednesday. This could be a good thing for the Mag 7. It's also could be a good thing in general for AI, and I'll explain why this matters here in a moment. But keep an eye on tomorrow's earnings from Nvidia. The other thing that could be pushing the market into a very unusual time is this right here. In 45 days, Japan's 30-year government bond yields rose 100 basis points. This is a record 3.2%, over $500 billion worth of safe 40-year Japanese government bonds now have lost 20%. Now, what does that mean for us? What that means is the Japanese hold a lot of U.S. Treasuries. To offset some of those losses, they're going to sell U.S. Treasuries. That would put a lot of pressure on the U.S. government, and how this could affect is even all the way down into a Fed rate increase. Let me play a clip for you to explain.
So the massive climb in bond yields in Japan indicates a massive sell-off. Like if Japan sells off too much, we are going to start to see a lot of unraveling happening.
What will that do? It will further exacerbate the market's reluctance to own U.S. Treasuries, which means yields go even higher.
Which means interest rates for businesses and individuals go higher.
Correct.
And the only way to keep those interest rates low will be for the Federal Reserve to try and step in and buy those bonds, which will devalue the dollar. That's the consequence, I think, of this particular bill, because it signals a lack of a reluctance to actually address.
Let me say something here.
These guys go in and will hit a flood of supply that is overwhelming buyers. This is basically going to be holding over 4.1 trillion in bonds. That's 52% of the entire market. Now, why is that important to what we're doing in DC? Well, right now, it is important that the Senate steps away from this potential, bill that is going to cause this catastrophe that could happen. And what they're saying right now is GOP senator hits the Trump's tax bill, saying that there's enough Republican votes to stop the process. This would be a good thing. That's the way out of this, to be able to create more of a macro positive environment and get the Japanese. But the key here, I think, long term, is to start to reduce the Japanese ownership in U.S. Treasuries, because that's the thing you can't have going forward. Now, I want to go to this next clip, because this will get into what they're up against just to make this happen. Take a look.
I mean, they've got a Herculean task.
If you were a betting man,
yeah,
and you were to look at a calendar, when do you think all this gets resolved?
Well after the 4th of July.
Well after.
They may have to run
before Labor Day?
You will probably get to August, and they'll say it's now October or September. But putting this together is going to be extremely difficult in 4 weeks before the 4th of July. So maybe August. My opinion is more likely later in the year.
Like in September, October?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
All right, so what does this do to the current market? Well, it could delay a few things. One, it could delay the stablecoin, the Genius Act. It could also roll over like a domino effect and delay the market structure bill. And all of this affects crypto in general. Timing could be right in the fact that it could happen in the summer and we get a reprieve on that, maybe toward the third quarter. But still, this creates a lot of uncertainty in the market, and we could see that impact very quickly. Here's a clip to kind of explain that.
Harry, if only there were a way to measure the level of uncertainty that people feel.
Okay, trade policy uncertainty index through the roof, up 846% versus a year ago. These two entities, what's essentially going on is he is threatening the U.S. economy, and that is why we've seen the markets do a little bit of this.
Keep going. All right, good.
All right, Harry, you can stop now.
All right, so markets, yes, doing a little bit of that, even though Bitcoin has been pretty much on an all-time high run. However, there was some news here recently from Google saying that quantum computers could actually put a little bit of a stifle in Bitcoin in the future much faster. And a couple of points they hit within a couple of tweets is this new encryption, this RSA encryption that could theoretically break Bitcoin. Now, this again has been thought of. We've talked about it before here on the show. But the first time that we've really seen activity from the technical companies like Google is right here. We just launched a ETH Price. This is going to be a Bitcoin to the first team to break a toy version of Bitcoin's cryptography. So this is the first time we've seen this roll into it. And remember, advanced computing is going to be the future here. That's why we'll see so much more in the way of AI. And this was such a concern that even BlackRock had to put out a statement. And here's what they said. If quantum computing is able to advance in that way, there is a risk that quantum computing could result in the underlying Bitcoin network becoming ineffective. If that happens and we have any kind of compromise, this is something, trust others with the Bitcoin network, which would result in losses to shareholders. So they're putting out a statement now that is very, very telling of where this could go. Now think about this from an ETF standpoint. Here's the Bitcoin ETF rolling out over this last little bit. We saw a rise, and then over the last little bit, we've started to see a little bit of a fall off since the 21st. Take a look at Ethereum. You can kind of see here's a little bit of a move right here in the last few days. Is this the beginning of Ethereum's run? That's the question I think everybody's asking. Now, there's a lot of reasons why there is not only an uncertainty situation that could cause a pump for Ethereum. Here's a couple of points. This was breaking. Ethereum validators now are supporting raising gas limit from 36 Ms to 60 M. Now, what does that mean? This gets into the point that this could all happen from now on. Expect these regular gas limit bumps. 10% of stake is already voting for a 60 M limit. All of this could happen in the future on a regular basis. So even lower cost in terms of L1 gas limits. The other thing is speed. These are the transactions per second. This is TPS that was scored against what we're seeing within the L1 right now. 94%, we're coming in under 12 seconds. Now that all starts to point in the right direction. Here's a breakdown of what they see going forward. Take a look.
We want to start off by showing SP1 Hypercube's groundbreaking ability to prove Ethereum blocks in real time. SP1 Hypercube is able to prove over 93% of the blocks in under 12 seconds, with an average block taking just 10.3 seconds. Just a year ago, we were over 10x away from this level of performance. Ewan will now demo proving an Ethereum block in his terminal.
I'm going to request a proof for this Ethereum mainnet block from about a month ago. It uses 32 million gas, contains hundreds of transactions, and we're going to generate a proof of its execution in less than 12 seconds across a bare metal cluster of 200 GPUs. Looks like it's already done. A 1 megabyte proof generated in just under 11 seconds.
Could also move Ethereum into a position to be quantum resistant. So think about that, one of the blockchains that could become quantum resistant, especially on this news or in the heels of that news of what Google is talking about with Bitcoin. So there's just a lot of things that are loose right now. Be paying attention to that. Now, another thing that's playing out in the ETH ecosystem is this move right here. This is Sharplink Gaming. Sharplink Gaming, of course, announced a $425 million private placement to initiate an Ethereum Treasury strategy. Think MicroStrategy for Ethereum. So these guys are gaming, just like MicroStrategy is a tech company. Gaming, these guys are all about gaming. Now, one thing they did do is they asked Joseph Lubin of Consensus to sit on the board. So that clearly shows a big directive going toward the future of Ethereum. Now let's take a look at Sharplink in general. If you go to their website, right here, proven fan activation solutions. A couple of points I want to hit on is some of the brands. These are partners. Most of these are big betting organizations, gaming companies, etc. But as you start to go further down, now we're getting into direct-to-player marketing. These are actual sites that you will recognize, and that is places like FanDuel, BetMGM, DraftKings Sportbook. All of that could mean that we could see a Web3 version or possibly even a Web2 version that could eventually make its way into Web3, all designed around the ecosystem with Ethereum. So just look at that. Sharplink Gaming, just in the last few days, right there, a big bump in recent activity for obvious reasons. This might be opening up some very, very positive news for Sharplink, all based on Ethereum. Now, another thing that you got to consider is Solana, just now live on MetaMask. Now remember, MetaMask could be the extension that ties all of this together for things like Web3 betting and the potential use case of what we'll see maybe from maybe even a transition of Web 2. So you've got two ecosystems that all play into this. One note on Solana is it could lag right now as, especially Ethereum, with meme coin activity dropping, this coming in from Standard Charter. Does that mean that ETH is finally in a position to make a run, and could it outperform Solana? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, because I think this is going to really start to play out very quickly. Let's take a look at the ETH chart, because by the way, don't remember also that when you look, thinking of use case, think about Google, Microsoft, and even companies like McDonald's who had shunned away from the idea of putting Bitcoin in their treasury and possibly using it, and had been talking and actually implementing on Ethereum. So that could be another factor with what Sharplink Gaming is doing that ties to all of this. If you look at the chart, ETH, of course, had a nice little move here over the last 4 days. Good little run up. Maybe this is the beginning. And this, if you compare this also with what's going on with virtuals, let me show you something on virtuals. They have these version points that have now been launched. Now, what this means is you're going to get access to pre-token generated events, and this is going to be all allocation and Giga AI agent launches. So the potential here, as AI agents launch on this, you guys are going to, if you're holding these version points, as you're doing activities, and some of the activities you can do, example right here, yapping points. You can also stake things like virtual and others, including AI agents. And if you guys will remember, we've talked about Byte before. This is one of those. This is kind of the future of where AI is going, and maybe even quantum computing if you think about it. The point being is that we could see devices that are all voice enabled. And if that is going to be the case, look for AI agents like one of these that could be able to generate more impact on crypto. And of course, virtuals is the one we're picking to be the winner there. So big news out there for sure. Last up I want to hit on, and that of course is stablecoins. And stablecoin, because we have the Genius Act just on the verge of hopefully passing, but Hong Kong has rug pulled us. They've passed the stablecoin bill now, which tightens their grip on the digital dollar, and it puts a lot of pressure on U.S. lawmakers to be able to do the same thing. They are now passing a new law requiring stablecoin issuers to be licensed. So a major shift in digital assets, and it's all happening in China. So pay attention, guys. It's real. Ethereum flashes altcoin season signals as ETH potentially could hit around 4,100. And even if you consider where we are on the altcoin season, the opportunity here for ETH is setting up in a very good way. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you're not part of the Diamond Circle, make sure and get in on that. It's a great place to get additional content from me. And of course, follow me out there on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.